Awesome. Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Elk Grove Unified School District Board of Education for July 18th, 2023, and announce that the board will meet in closed session to address items 1 through 4 on the closed session portion of the agenda. At this time, I'm going to call for public comment on closed session items. Mr. Hoffman, do we have any blue slips?
We do not.
Thank you. I am going to close public comment and recess into closed session.
Okay. You ready?
Okay.
Great.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Our apologies for running a little bit late today. I would like to announce that the board, let's see, we're getting started at 6:15. The board met in closed session and the following action was taken. This is item 1, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Appointment/Employment, consistent with Education Code 35107E and Board Policy 9270 regarding the employment of relatives. Board Member Carmen Fortuna did not attend closed session regarding the management position appointment, and as a result abstained from closed session discussion and action regarding the vice principal position. In closed session, the board took action to approve the appointment of Ms. Kristen Couchot to the position of vice principal. The vote was as follows: yeas, Albiani, Vargas, Yang, and Chaitis Espinosa; nays, Bettis, Board Member Fortuna abstained, and Board Member Jamerson was absent. With that, good evening and welcome. The Board of Education has resumed full in-person board meetings unless remote attendance is permitted pursuant to the California Brown Act. Live streaming of today's in-person board meeting will be available to the public via the Zoom platform. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district's YouTube channel. Some information to share regarding public comment. During regular board meetings, the public may not make public comments on items. The public may make public comments on items on the agenda and items not on the agenda. Individual speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The total amount of time allocated to public comments by the board will be limited, with a total of 30 minutes designated per item. Public comments during regular board meetings may be made about items not on the agenda, but within the school district's jurisdiction. Public comment may be made on all items that are on the board agenda and will be heard when the selected item comes up. Individuals may not defer their time to another individual speaker to decrease their individual total time beyond 3 minutes. Please be mindful that district students may be watching and in fact are participating. You are encouraged to address the board and the public in a respectful manner such that all those observing, from children to adults, are made to feel welcome, safe, and valued. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the board president to provide a warning and then to terminate the individual's privilege of addressing the board. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our new student board representative on her first meeting, Isabella. Please take it away. Yeah, down there.
Hello. Oh, everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Isabella. Next, we're going to move on to our presentations and recognitions. The first item there is the Finance Committee Annual Report for 2023. Ms. Gerber, do we have any public comments via Zoom? No.
Madam President, there are no comments via Zoom on that item.
Thank you, Ms. Gerber. Ms. Jamerson is absent today. So Ms. Albiani, do we have any blue cards on this item?
We do not.
Awesome. Thank you. With that, please take it away.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman and Ms. Avilos. Tonight, before I call up Ms. Megan Sapigao, the committee co-chair who will be presenting the report, I'm going to recognize the contributions of the committee members and appreciate their time and effort is much appreciated. So we have member Megan Sapigao, Samia Aguirre, Michael Alvarez, Joel Boyd, Igor Carrion, Zenobia Nicholson, Peter Suda, and Angie Wangsgard. So this evening, you'll be asked to receive the 2023 Finance Committee Annual Report, and I'll ask that Ms. Megan Sapigao join us at the podium. Oh, yes, I was remiss in recognizing John Scriven, who's not here tonight. He is the committee chairperson.
Thank you. I would have been in trouble if we forgot John.
Good evening, President Chires Espinoza. Good evening, board members. My name is Megan Sapigao, and I am the co-chair of the District Finance Committee. I'm here in my chair, John Scriven's place, to deliver to you our 2023 report, a high level of the report. And let's see. So the Finance Committee, we in the year, we had 5 meetings through June 2023. In January, we began to review the committee bylaws and had a robust discussion on the bylaws. Through March, we continued the topic of the committee bylaws, and we proposed adjustment to the calendar to be aligned with the Elk Grove Unified Budgetary Calendar. We also met in the end of March to discuss and finalize questions for the upcoming student panel, which is held twice a year. On April 24th, we met with the student panel, which is comprised of representatives from each of the district high schools. And finally, in June, we synthesized all that feedback and we met to prepare this report. So what I'm going to focus on is the really awesome and interesting feedback that we had from our student representatives. And I do want to deliver some recommendations following this report. In April, we met with the committee, with the invited students to address 4 particular questions that we curated. 11 students came from 7 schools. And the questions that we asked were, number 1, tell us about a particular program or club that might have drawn you to your school. Number 2, what programs or classes would the campus you attend benefit from if made available to all students? Number 3, do you and your classmates feel safe and comfortable in your campus community? Why or why not? And number 4, share with us your school's greatest strengths and biggest opportunities for growth. So on the topic of question number 1, most students overwhelmingly said that their academies, classes such as dance and theater and the AVID program are huge draws for their students on their campuses. For question number 2, I'll just remind you of what the question is. Programs or classes that the campus you attend benefit from. The students provided feedback where that focused on the availability of practical life courses. So particularly things like life after high school skills, basic budgeting and finance skills, classes that taught them how to write a resume or interview. Other feedback included expanding AP classes for underclassmen, bringing back driver's education, expanding cultural studies courses, and more diverse language offerings, along with trade skill and work experience for juniors and seniors. One recommendation that the Finance Committee had on this topic is to encourage the district to consider innovative ways to provide access to programs for all students who are interested. So for example, introduce more academies and other site-specific programs during summer school. A lot of the academies are not available to the students district-wide, and so if there was a way to expand access for students who were interested in some of these, courses, maybe during summer school, that was something that was discussed. Question number 3, do you and your classmates feel safe and comfortable in your campus community? The majority of the students on the panel provided feedback that they and their classmates feel comfortable and safe at school and school-related events. They mentioned that resource officers, security, and staff are doing a good job of building relationships and trust with students. One of our recommendations is that we encourage the district to continue to invest in equity projects, things that are particularly, I think there was some worry because much of this is ESSER funded. And so it's important that safety related mechanisms and staff around schools are reflective of the student community. So I think that just continue to invest in safety as it relates to equity. I think there was also a question if there's an assessment in place for the current work that is being undertaken, and is it making a positive impact? So I think to clarify, this was particularly around some of the mechanisms such as cameras on school sites. We got some feedback from the students about that. And I think the finance committee was curious if there were any data that was coming from the school sites to see if this was effective and a good investment. Lastly, strengths that students shared included DEI programs, multicultural groups. A lot of students expressed that there was good openness and acceptance on their campus. Safety and security academies, and good overall academic programs. Some opportunities that were shared included to bolster better school spirits. There were shorthanded staff on campus, visibly shorthanded staff such as food services and office administration. And so perhaps that was an opportunity for investment. A really good suggestion that came across the board from students was to start an ASB Council Summit 2 times per year to share ideas and best practices among student leadership. There was a request to also amplify Unity Day. I think a couple campuses were doing this. And finally, to improve the current communication system. There was feedback that Synergy was not meeting the students where they're at. And there was a hope that there was some sort of a platform that was preferred across the campus or across the student body. I think finally, our as a finance committee, our suggestions to the board is that we encourage the board to continue community-based student and parent group and committee engagement as a sounding board to assist in plans moving forward. As you sunset the committee, I think that it's still relevant as we see, with our interaction with the students, that it's really important to have that connection and to have that bridge between students, community, and the board. And so in whatever ways that you can continue to engage for feedback amongst community members, families, students, that's highly encouraged, especially when it comes to making decisions and finance decisions. Members of this committee believe in the importance and the relevance of the finance committee. And so each of us expressed that we are interested in serving when a new finance committee or ad hoc committee is needed, and we stand ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sapigal, for a great report.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to members' questions and comments. It's our practice, even though I forget it very often, to go to the student board member first. So first opportunity for questions and comments. Go ahead, Isabella.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for the presentation. I agree with all of the concerns you brought up too, that student representatives were talking about. And I just want to add to one of the courses that you were suggesting we include. IB courses is something I think a lot of students would benefit from. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you for that addition. That was brought up.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go to my right, Mr. Yang. Any questions or comments?
Well, good evening. Thank you for coming and to give us this report. It was interesting report that you provided on behalf of your committee. I'm here to say that I'm sad to see that the committee is being routed to a different I would say priorities, and I was voting against it of the decision because I really thought that we do need transparency of our constituents be the forefront and to provide necessary feedback to the individual boards and also to the community. So I hope that our board will consider in the near future for reappoint you folks to move forward again with the finance committee. With that said, you said that we are allowed to ask questions as well?
On the report, yes.
Yeah, okay. Do you find the financial committee being relevant to providing information as far as finance to the board and community, the time that you serve in there?
I'm going to stop you one there. We have to stay on the agenda.
Yeah.
The question that you're talking about was something that has already been on a board agenda and that we've already acted on. It is different from this. This is the finance committee providing their report. So if you have any questions on the substance of their report, that's appropriate. But the action that you're talking about is not what's been noticed on this agenda, and it would be a Brown Act violation to go into that.
Okay, well, I was a little bit received the information off guard in a way because it is a financial committee, but the report that she gave is almost seems like they're in a different committee. So why is that?
I don't understand that question, so I can't answer
Well,
it.
because I mean, I appointed Joel Boy as as one of the financial committee, and I know their task was really the very vital task was really be a part of knowing where our funding in our school district is going and being kind of the bridge to the community. So like, I'm a little bit confused of this report of she giving where it almost seems like they're intervening with the students and finding out what the student needs and concerns are. So I'm just a little bit confused, that's all. To what they're supposed to be doing versus what the report is. I mean, the report is not good, but it just kind of threw me off of the duty that I understood, you know, from what me and Ju Boy as a person I appoint to the committee. So I'm just a little bit confused. So is there a reason why you guys provide this report?
They are required by us to provide the report.
And so I.
So it has nothing to do with the finance
See if I
part?
can help. Let me see if I can help.
Yeah,
So the finance committee over the years, this is the challenges. The topic today is the finance committee's actual report. So being able to speak to that, the functioning of the finance committee and the bylaws and what that was another conversation, and it may be one that we have down the road, but I think it was part of the challenge of the committee is there was some confusion on what the focus of the group was. And so your question about why are they providing information in this report about the students? Well, they traditionally met with the students twice a year to get feedback from the students about how things were going at the school sites, which may help them in making recommendations to the board with regards to budget items that the board should consider. So tonight it is the committees met with the groups, and one of the things the board asked for was making sure we got the feedback from the committee about what the students shared. But the idea of meeting with the students was often to see where does the rubber meet the road? So the board's making decisions to spend money in certain ways, and they ask questions that would say, are the kids benefiting from the things that we're doing? So that's what's in the report, and that's what tonight's item is actually about. The board may in the future have a conversation about what the new version of the committee will look like, but we can't talk about that tonight because it's not agendized. That helps.
yeah, I mean, that brought back definitely some memories that me and Jude talked about it. I mean, that's part of their job, but I mean, their focal point wasn't just that. And I think moreover, the finance piece of it itself, it's what is critical for their role. So anyways, with that said, I mean, I appreciate you presenting. I just try to clarify this, but as we move forward, obviously, and there should be more discussion and more intentional, clear direction for future committee. So thank you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. I served on the finance committee once as well and know those were a lot of evenings. I left my family to go, so I appreciate that. What high schools were you able to meet with? Did you get all of them to come?
We got 7.
That's
of them,
great.
And give me a second because I believe that.
We
Oh,
didn't mean to pop quiz you.
Oh, no, I'm
Top
just
of your head
wondering
is
how the
fine.
show up was because I was on it for a few years. And so some years it was a lot and some years it was harder to do. So I just
Yeah.
think it's great that more came.
Yeah, we got fantastic representation and a lot of really great feedback. And the students that came were they represented their schools really well.
That's really exciting.
Mhm.
Thank you. And I also greatly appreciate, though we've changed the format of this, we, as a board, I'm not giving up having a committee at some point possibly. And I appreciate in your report saying that you would be willing to serve again. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Albiani. Mr. Fortino,
Yeah, just
is your mic on?
just a couple of comments. Beth asked the only question I had. First of all, again, thank you. The work of the committee certainly has been appreciated. And I know from speaking with my representative and speaking with Joel Boyd, they're certainly interested in continuing with an involvement. And one of the items that you focused on is certainly an area in which I believe there's going to be opportunity coming up very quickly, and that's with the ESSER funded positions.
Yes.
And unless the legislature wants to drop another $300 million on us, we'll probably have to make some hard decisions. And we should have multiple voices
Yes.
when that work is done. So thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. I think that was really helpful to hear from the students about what investments were important to them. And so as a finance committee, we were keeping that in mind and hoping, that what we put in this report, also is on the mind of the board as they evaluate these funds in the future. So thank you.
Yeah, your words will not be forgotten.
Mr. Vargas?
Thank you very much for your service. I really appreciate the report, and I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Pettis? No. Wonderful. So I will also be brief. I want to thank you, Ms. Sapigow, all of the other members of the committee, those present and those who couldn't be here for their work. I look forward to seeing hopefully many of you again when we've got a concrete assignment that's going to add value to the work that we do and be respectful of the time and commitment that you all make. There's some great ideas in this report already. I know that a lot of us are going to take that and look at what we can and do to implement that. So thank you very, very much. Before you go, if any other members of the Finance Committee are here, I'd love to have folks come up to take a picture with the board, if that's okay.
Can I make one comment real quick?
Go ahead,
Just-
sir. Sorry.
So just since you brought up the idea of continuing and we'll see what the board does with putting the new version of the committee together. But I do want to do a shout out as far as opportunities to be engaged is we do have our Measure M Citizens Oversight Committee, and we have been working to find representatives for that. So we'll continue to advertise for that. But we need a wide range of folks that check a bunch of different boxes. So that's just another piece to making sure it's an ongoing committee that we have in place, and a really good opportunity to be involved and see some of the amazing work that we're doing with regards to facilities. I just want to put that out loud. So I took the opportunity to plug Measure M Oversight Committee.
Very timely plug. Wonderful. Well, colleagues, if you could join me down there for a photo, and any members of the Finance Committee who are present, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the front of the room.
No, it's okay. I would have brought our fancy camera. All right. I'm like, I don't know what my phone is.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, colleagues. Next up, we are going to move to request for return from expulsion. Ms. Gerber, do we have any public comments via Zoom on this item?
Madam President, there are no comments via Zoom on that item.
Thank you very much. Ms. Albiani, do we have any blue cards on this item?
We have no blue cards.
Thank you. I'd like to call for a motion to request the return from expulsion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Albiani, seconded by Mr. Vargas. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved unanimously. Thank you. Next, we're going to move to public comment for items not on the agenda. Ms. Gerber, do we have any public comments via Zoom for items not on the agenda?
Madam President, we do have 3 public comments via Zoom for items not on the agenda. First up, we have Elda Garcia.
Okay, Mr. Mate, can we get Ms. Garcia?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
I thank you, Nancy. My name is Elda and I'm a parent. I have children in the Elk Grove School District, and I'd like to start off with reading to you all Matthew 18:6-7. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believes in me, it was better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. I've been coming and making a couple of public comments for a while now. Even before the pandemic occurred, I was coming along with other parents and not parents when several books were in the school curriculum, history books that were presented for viewing. And so I just would like to petition Mr. Hoffman. You have the authority to approve or disapprove school items. And I would like to petition that you send maybe a survey, Mr. Hoffman. It was good to hear your voice, by the way. That doesn't happen very often. And so, I'm speaking on behalf of many other parents that I've spoke to as I've taken my children to school and to see what their take is on what's going on with these pornographic books being in the school libraries. This isn't about believing, or of course we all have different walks of life and faith. So many of the board members have shown themselves out in public, representing different lifestyles, and that's okay. That's your choice. You have the freedom. We all have the freedom. But I just would like Mr. Hoffman to please either survey all the Elk Grove District parents. That would be a start to see how many are in the same boat with you and you allowing these books to be in the school libraries. I just don't understand why you haven't responded to several emails. I've emailed, I've sent comments, and I've not heard from you. I think I did hear one, and it was pretty vague, was very short. You still didn't cite what regulation under what authority, what are you using to have these type of books available for little children? I just don't understand. There's got to be some oversight. I was told that there possibly might be a parent group, but yet some of the principals in the schools aren't even aware, have not even heard of it. So there's a lot of, items that are not being clear, or, you're not being transparent. And I think that's part of your work. You were hired, to represent parents and children. Most importantly, the children are not for sale. They're not, this is putting them in danger. So I just would like to hear from you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. And the next speaker is Ms. Gerber.
Next up, we have Marissa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening, school board members. I think we can all agree with evidence of children reading at much lower levels. It's almost idiotic to request to ban books. Post-COVID shutdowns, state standardized tests showed horrendous results. Less than half of all students who took the Smarter Balance test met the standard in English language arts. According to World Population Review, California now leads the country in illiteracy. I'm saying all of this because knowing all of these facts, I know it truly sounds outrageous to ban or to want to ban books. But let's all dig a little deeper here. How is it that in a society so advanced, we can't take the time to hear parents out on both sides, especially as educators? We know collaborating with staff, families, and social services providers develop policies and procedures related to family support. Truly research the consequences that these books can have on children. We recently heard at another school board meeting from an early childhood educator about how representation matters, and it is 100% true. Think of how confusing it could be to a child reading, and I'm quoting, "We're each busting a load into this bottle. If you don't come, you have to drink it," end quote. I urge you to seek the advice of professionals and therapists of children, specifically child sex offender therapists. I did that. And the overwhelming response I got was that these books can be very confusing to children. Some, not all, will agree with these parents that you call bigots. The majority of these parents are not asking you to ban books about two moms or two dads. They are asking you to review these books, and if they are not what a sexual offense would be considered, then maybe think of alternative ways for children to check these books out. If librarians and parents want these books in schools, feel free to pursue a more advanced checkout system. Take the extra step to call the parents to make sure it is appropriate for their child. Parents know their children more than you do. They would know if they are mentally capable to comprehend the material in these books. And I've heard people say, well, don't your children listen to you when you say not to do something? Let's be realistic here. You all know that children don't always listen. And also, I truly think it's unfair that because parents don't want these books in public schools, people tell them that they should go to a private school. This economy is not friendly, and not everyone is able to afford conservative private schools. Public school is for all children in our community. This topic is dividing the community, and it's time someone thinks outside of the box to get these issues resolved. Like I said, look into a more advanced checkout system to appease all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Gerber.
Next up, we have Kirk Thompson.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
For a long time, we were inundated with the phrase "trust the experts." News articles would always end their headlines with "experts say," in order to drive home the idea that people with more knowledge and experience on that particular topic had said this thing. Therefore, you should inherently trust it and not question it. We lived through that for the better part of 3 years, and this school board was very clear they trusted the quote unquote experts. Well, I got an expert for you to trust. Former DHS special agent assigned to the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and undercover agent responsible for the liberation of hundreds of child sex slaves, Tim Ballard, stated on a recent podcast, quote, "I used to be able to arrest people for providing the material to children that teachers are currently giving to kids under the guise of sex education," unquote, when he was referring to the book Genderqueer. Just as a reminder, Genderqueer is available in these school libraries. During the same podcast, the host warned Ballard not to show any of the images to the camera for fear of YouTube removing the video from the platform. That explains why your staff has been consistently making sure public comments are recorded from the back instead of the front, to stay on the positive side of YouTube censors when parents have shown up with these pictures. While I can appreciate you wanting to stay on the right side of the YouTube censors, it is shocking that didn't raise any red flags to any of you or your staff. YouTube, the video platform that allows a channel where two men play a game they call Dick or Dildo. And yes, it is exactly what you think it is. YouTube allows that on their platform, but might not allow images from genderqueer and some of the other books that have been mentioned for months by parents at these meetings. And still, you have either done nothing or you have done something and you've not been transparent with your constituents. Either way, your conduct is unacceptable. This incessant desire to sexualize kids has been backfiring lately. We've seen Disney and Target take massive financial hits due to the attempts to bring sexuality to prepubescent kids. We've seen Bud Light go from the most popular beer brand to being knocked out of the top 10 in less than 3 months by marketing to kids through Dylan Mulvaney. There have even been a recent poll that suggests support for same-sex relationships, not just marriage, relationships, has been dropping in recent months. If that poll is accurate and you're looking for someone to blame, you need only look in the mirror. School boards like this one have done more to harm gay rights and LGBTQ acceptance in the past 3 years than any church has in the last 3 decades. And it's all because you failed to realize a basic truth that all parents realize the moment they hear that first heartbeat on the ultrasound. My children are not for sale. Our children are not for sale. God's children are not for sale.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson and Ms. Gerber. That concludes the Zoom comments. Okay, just making sure. Ms. Albiani, do we have blue cards for items not on the agenda?
We do. We have a number. We'll start with Mr. Joel Boyd, followed by Gary Hickman. Mr. Hickman, you're welcome to come up and stand close to here and so we can move right along.
Follow that. Okay. Thank you, board members. Tomorrow is a very exciting day for us in our home. Our little guy is going to school, entering public schools in the ranch, and we're excited about it. I have 2 other daughters that's in the ranch, and Oak Grove School District is a good school district, and we believe in it. And that's why we continue to have our kids in the school district. And yes, exciting day tomorrow. We're looking forward to having them walk down the street with his dino backpack. And as a parent, that's why I, am involved in a lot of different committees, not just for my kids, but just for the community at large. I believe in building a stronger community, and we do that through education. And, some of the work that was done with the finance committee is when we were meeting with the students, and I would get that feedback. I would go and I would talk back to other parents about it. And, and that decision was made to sunset the committee, and I'm not here to rehash that. That's a bell that's rung and you can't unring it. But the report, I believe it could have been a little bit more robust, could have captured a little bit more of what we discussed during the meeting, but that's a different topic. But would like to see some action on the board to take. I did submit a letter to the board to put on the agenda to have a public discussion about the new Finance Advisory Committee, because it is a committee that, as you can saw by the report and by the dialogue that we had with the committee, it's a very important bridge and avenue for the district and the community to engage in a lot of different matters, especially the input that we get back from the students. I found that very valuable to be able to go and talk to other parents about it. Mr. Dave Riley, we talked earlier, and that's how I got to meet him, through the finance committee, and learned a lot about special ed, and again, was able to go and connect with different community members. And, Dave, that was a rocky road, but, a lot of things got settled, and that was all settled through dialogue. So I would like to see the board to take some action. My ask is if it's possible tonight during the discussion, to make a motion to put that on the agenda. I know you need 4 votes, but I hope that there can at least be a public discussion and vote on it tonight. Yeah, and in closing, I just want to say that you know, the Brown Act is something that I hope is enforced. There should be some incentives to have other board members to honor that Brown Act. There's a reason why we have the Brown Act, and I would like to see that to be a little bit more enforced by the board. So thank you for your.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
How do I reset this sucker?
Get it?
I'm pleased to learn that the school board has recently taken up the topic of parental rights. So thank you very much. I understand the board's reluctance regarding the topic of removing books. The history of this topic is complicated and it is emotionally charged. And I understand concerns over books like To Kill a Mockingbird or Catcher in the Rye. And I agree that there is a place for these books in our schools, even though their subjects may be difficult. When I attended the school board meeting on June 13th, I read an excerpt from a book that was written to be informational, a how to navigate the world kind of book with short stories and factoids. However, the stories and the facts were more about children being groomed for sex by adults and how to select phone apps for quick, easy, and uncomplicated sex. The books that we are here to request to be removed from the school libraries are not literary masterpieces. Instead of advancing conversations, they amount to little more than how to groom children for, how to groom children books for adult sexual predators and promoting promiscuity as a way to be cool and popular in life. I've spent the last 18 years in one form or another in the pro-life community. I've seen firsthand the harm that promiscuity does to teenagers, whether it's having to do childcare, abortion, human trafficking, self-harm, body image issues, self-esteem issues. Ladies and gentlemen, the books that we oppose are not beneficial to our society and do not show the full consequences of the life that they try to glorify. They are written to shock, to sway, and to corrupt the young minds that pick them up and read them. I'm not opposed to any and every book that may discuss sex and intimacy. Show me a book of the caliber of To Kill a Mockingbird or of the caliber of Catcher in the Rye, and we can have a discussion about it. The books that our group has brought to your attention, they can stay in the public libraries, but they have no place in a school library of the Elk Grove Unified School District. We continue to seek to have a reasonable conversation with you about our concerns for specific books, and we greatly appreciate your consideration of our requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you just state your name for the record, please?
Oh, I apologize. My name is Gary Hickman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, we have Daxon Zing. How do I say that? Zing?
On the next
Oh,
one.
thank you. That'll be followed by Danielle Jolifi. And if Danielle, if you just want to come up here so we can be moving along. Thanks. I'm substituting tonight, so I'm
Yes.
a little shaky. I'm out of practice. Sorry.
And I will share our general disclaimer. If we don't pronounce your name correctly, we want to learn, so please correct us.
Okay. All right. Good evening. Today, I'm here to be a voice for those who do not have a voice, namely many first-generation Asian immigrant parents like myself. They do not have a voice because they have limited English proficiency. They do not have a voice because they know little about how the school system is running. They do not have a voice because they don't know that they can have a voice, because they fully trust the school district, trust the school board members, you guys. A few of my friends, some of them are here today, among these immigrant parents, they were utterly horrified upon hearing about the pornographic books in several Elk Grove school libraries. They say to give our children a better education is why we migrate to the United States and why we settled in Elk Grove. Just how do pornographic books contribute to a better education? These books are not only a total distraction, to true learning, but could also cause serious problems to the safety and emotional well-being to our children. And that is their voice. And the phrase book banning is thrown at us parents who, out of concern for our children's well-being, desire that they are not exposed to sexually explicit materials in school. Now, let's be clear. Removing these sexually explicit contents from school libraries is not book banning. No one is lobbying legislatures to forbid the publication of these books. No one is storming the local Barnes and Noble to demand the removal of these books from the shelves. And no one is marching into public libraries to require certain books to be removed, to be taken down from circulation. Right? So what we are asking here is the removal of sexually explicit books from school libraries. These books are freely available elsewhere at public libraries and many bookstores. Parents who are fine with their children reading them are able to freely access these books with their children, and nobody here is against this. What we ask to remove from school libraries are not books covering or mentioning sexual topics, but with no graphic depictions. What we ask to remove are books with sexually explicit contents. They are not age appropriate to school age children, therefore should have no place in school libraries. Thank you.
Call you Miss Danielle Jolliffe. Thank you. And followed by Miss Jolliffe will be Ron Owens. If you want to go ahead and come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. I'm going to be reading from a sexually explicit book. So if there's any children present, they might want to leave. This is from a book titled Queer, the Ultimate LGBTQ Guide for Teens, found in multiple middle and high schools in Elk Grove Unified School District. This book teaches the how-tos of sex and has at least 20 pages of explicit instructions on how to have sex. This book also encourages kids to keep secrets from their parents. The following is an example of explicit instructions on how to have sex. Genital stimulation can come from any body part. You can use your hands or hips or feet, or you can rub your private parts on someone else's thigh, arm, butt, genitals, ankles. You may stroke his penis, insert fingers into his anus, or insert fingers into her vagina. The latter two may also be considered anal and vagina sex. You may find yourself making out, getting all hot and heavy, and having an orgasm just from rubbing against each other's bodies. You may not even have to take your clothes off. It's all sex. It feels really good. I'm aware that parents can opt out of sex ed, but the district is providing this material without notifying parents. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, followed by Heidi Moore.
Good evening. It's the first board meeting of the fiscal year, and it's imperative to review what we have done the past several weeks. We have grimaced reading publicly pornographic school library books. We have blown up pornographic illustrations of these books. We have mounted them on poster board. We have unabashedly, yet embarrassingly, brandished these poster boards at board meetings for all to see. We have shared how pornographic material and pornographic illustrations in these pornographic school library books is contrary to the district's own anti-sexual harassment policy. We've informed that any of the district's more than 6,500 employees, serving more than the district's 63,000 students at the district's 68 separate work sites, can sue the district for breaking the district's own anti-sexual harassment policy, which is based on federal and state law. We have intimated that the district is breaking the law. We even suggested two solutions. These pornographic school library books be distributed to public libraries, or these pornographic school library books be given to parents who have no problem with their children viewing them. While the issue is not about us, the issue is and always has been and will continue to be about children. But opponents have made it about us. They have called us white supremacists. They have characterized us as being oppressors and colonizers. They have said we're white Christian nationalists, book banners, and Christian right-wing extremists. These ad hominem attacks, and ad hominem is defined as attacking opponent's character or motives rather than answering the argument or claim. To date, the collective response of this board and this administration about pornographic school library books has been yes, the serious sound of silence is very loud and deafening.
Heidi Moore. Followed by Amelia Mendoza.
I'm also warning that if there are any children in the room, I will be reading directly from an explicit book. In a recent email communication with Superintendent Hoffman, I asked him the following simple questions. Are you okay with books depicting graphic molestation of minors, pedophilia, incest, and rape? Are you okay with books directing 12-year-old kids to use sex apps for easy sex with strangers and promoting sex with adults? It's very simple, yes or no. Mr. Hoffman deflected these simple questions and refused to answer. I asked him again and he said, quote, I do not have a yes or no answer for you. There are instances where such topics can and should be addressed. We are working to develop a process to evaluate and monitor such books to ensure educationally appropriate materials are available in our libraries. Okay, Mr. Hoffman, so let's read some of the excerpts to see if these instances should be addressed. In the bluest eye, talking about a pedophile with little girls. Do you know that, or it says the little girls are the only things I'll miss. Do you know that when I touched their sturdy little tits and bit them just a little, I felt I was being friendly? Two of them, Doreen and Sugar Babe, they'd come back together. I gave them mints, money, and they'd eat ice cream with their legs open while I played with them. It was like a party. Or how about in this book is Gay, where it gives directions on how to use sex apps and then use them to find quick, easy sex with strangers or to have sex with adults. So Mr. Hoffman, are these instances appropriate to provide to minors? The fact that we are being accused of targeting the LGBTQ community is quite laughable. If anything, the district is targeting the LGBT kids with their sexualization, and it makes me so sad. What parent would want their child to use sex apps to find strangers for easy sex, regardless of their sexual orientation? What parent would want a book promoting having sex with adults? It is disgusting and it promotes harmful, even dangerous behavior to minors. Stop sexualizing kids in the name of equity. You're either sexualizing kids for sexualizing kids or you're against it, and it's time to choose a side. Thank you.
Amelia Mendoza, followed by Shauna Mandel. Yeah.
There is a difference between removing and banning something. In the context I and some of other parents have been talking about, removing means extracting, separating, drawing out, or taking out an objectionable books from the school libraries. So they are not available at site for kids to access them. On the other hand, banning, as some people have accused us of, means abolishing, destroying, debarring, prohibiting, censoring, or suppressing these books, as it happened at a time of the Nazis regime when they tried to erase the horror of their actions against the Jews. Removing obscene books from the school libraries, we were sure that students would not have access to these books without their parents' knowledge and consent. If there are parents who find these books of any value to their children, they have the options of taking them to the public library and requesting them, or they can buy them to read during their story time with their children. The children will not be harmed if these books are not available to them. In contrast, it can cause trauma and violate a young mind, which is not prepared for the content of such books. We shall not be afraid that children will lack essential sexual information if they're not exposed at a young age to this explicit sexual material from these books. Their sexual maturity will happen regardless. What we should be concerned is troubling their mind with too much graphic sexual information that will hinder their healthy sexual development. We can never be too careful when trying to protect children's innocence. I ask that you think hard about this delicate issue that we have been presenting to you for months now, and hopefully the soil of your hearts, which Christ has been sowing his seed all these months since I and other parents have been coming here, bear abundant fruit and yields maybe 100-fold, 60 or 30, as mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew 13. I expect the board and mostly Mr. Hoffman, who is in charge of this district, to act quickly to remove, not ban, the books we have mentioned from the shelf of school libraries. And since I have a few seconds, I would like to say that just as, you know, when we have new curriculum going on, the district put the books out and the parents come and see them. How about doing that with these books? Put them out, invite the parents to come and take a look at it, do a survey, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Shauna Mendel.
Good evening. As stated, my name is Shauna Mandel, and I'm here as a representative for the Coalition for More Anatolia Area Schools. I have two boys, age 7 and 9, who currently attend Sunrise Elementary, and I know that I've emailed each of you, and probably a lot of other people in our area have too. I'm just here to remind you that those of us in the Anatolia area would like you to keep our area in mind as you decide on priorities for building new schools in the near future. You've heard our pleas in person and via email, and we understand it takes time for action and movement to happen, but we would like you to know that though our coalition has been quiet at this time, it doesn't signify our acceptance of the situation. Tonight's back to school night for Sunrise, and Mr. Hawk shared that Sunrise Elementary is currently at 1,100 enrolled students, with 1,200 anticipated by the end of the year, with the max at 1,450. That's very close to the max. They have already been offloading students who've been currently going to Sunrise to other local schools, including McGarvey. I think this kind of speaks to the point that the time to build is now, not to wait till the situation is even more dire. I hope that you will keep us in mind, and that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Albiani, that concludes the blue cards.
That's all our blue cards for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment for items not on the agenda. Next, we will move to the consent agenda. Ms. Gerber, do we have public comments via Zoom on the consent agenda?
Madam President, there are no public comments via Zoom.
Thank you, Ms. Albiani. Do we have blue cards on the consent agenda?
There are no blue cards.
Thank you. I would like to call for a motion to approve items 1 through 31 on the consent agenda. I am seeing a hand, Mr. Bettis.
Pull number 4 and 29.
Okay. I would like to call for a motion to approve items 1 through 39, except items 4 and 29.
So moved.
Did I say 1 through 39? 1 through 31,
Move.
except for 4 and
Second.
29. Moved by Ms. Albiani, seconded by Mr. Yang. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Those items are approved unanimously. Mr. Bettis, can you speak to number 4, please?
Revised job description, paraeducator, early childhood education, ECE. Agenda item August 8th, 2023. This preliminary report is a good start, but yet there's items in which there's requirements at the federal level that paraeducators in this program are going to report and address on their work environment and through the evaluation process. So I want to make staff aware of that. And the training, the child development, early education, early childhood education certificate process. Have we as a school district or our administration ever thought of providing the in-service training with our education development funding? It did not address that. It wasn't clear.
Mr. Bettis, I need you to stick to the item on the agenda.
Okay. Item number 2, completion of 50 days of experience in an instructional capacity in a child care or developmental program, working at least 3 hours per day within the 2 hours. Okay, and it says that these individuals completion of 12 semester units work in early childhood education or child development, excluding fieldwork, including at least one course, at least 3 semester units in each of the following core areas.
Mr. Bettis,
Child, human
Bettis,
growth and development.
Mr. Bettis.
2, child. Why?
I'm speaking. I need you to tell us what your objection is to the item, not to read documents to us.
This is an issue that I have that we could possibly internally train our staff. I'm suggesting why. Who am I speaking to? Who's our child development consultant, by the way? Who's going to be
I don't know what a child would.
missing?
Are you speaking to the board communication or
Yes,
agenda? item?
yes, agenda items. It's gonna.
That's not the agenda item.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
I know, yes,
Again,
I know it's for next meeting, but yet
this is
I
why
want
we
to have
prepare.
our staff consider in-house training for these particular objectives.
I'd be
Mr.
happy to
You know,
talk.
we have administrative credential program, but why don't we have a paraeducational
You're
program?
talking about an item that's not on the agenda.
Yes, I'm making suggestions.
Then
Okay,
you can
That
have
when-
that
when you
conversation with me, but you can't do it in public during a meeting because it's not agendized.
I'm talking about
Not following the
suggestions
Brown Act.
for August 8th.
Mr. Bettis,
Coming up.
Inappropriate right now.
Mr. Bettis,
Yeah.
you have just acknowledged that you are willfully bringing up an item that is not on the agenda in violation
Yes,
of the Brown Act. So we are going to move
I'm making
forward
suggestions.
in violation of the Brown Act. We're going to move forward and give you an opportunity to speak to item 29 on the consent agenda.
What?
You pulled item 29 on the consent agenda.
Right.
What is your objection to that item?
Well, a lot of work for that number 4. I'm going to tell staff because there's going to be a lot of questions. Number 29, it's our approval of 2023-24 annual site local control accountability plans. I don't understand why this board can not have this on the agenda that we could discuss this issue. there's a lot of issues again that I want to bring out regarding this plan. There's no fiscal reporting by schools. There's no data that was presented to this to this board to make a good educational yes or no vote.
Both
And
those
there's
things are included.
and each school, okay, there's no spreadsheets where the lowest achieving schools.
Each school provides a full
Yeah,
budget report and goals and the data that goes along with them making that decision. All
Yes,
of that.
but you have not provided us a data sheet or Excel sheet of all the high performing to the lowest performing schools that are behind. And people are aware of this, and to make a concrete good decision on these programs and then amendments. You say you're going to have amendments. We have never in our in 20 years, no, since this started this program, have we amended our contract or school sites. And so, this is poorly written. There's more money that is coming for this priority concerning within districts in California, but yet we do a poor job on reporting on these issues and
Mr.
making
Bettis?
good decisions and that we do not get. You tell me, you tell me what are the poorest performing schools? I doubt if any of you could probably name the last 5 or on the list of within our district.
Mr. Bettis,
Right.
I need to note for the benefit of
Okay.
everybody who is watching that the state provides a very prescriptive format for us to report this information. So we include everything that is required there. So your desire to see something separate and above that is not a
I
shortcoming.
agree
on our
with you
part.
1%.
We are
That's where I
complying
get
with the
my
state.
information from. I get my information from the Department of Education, compliance unit. And the things that we are not doing, there's a lot of things that we're not reporting to the board.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes,
So,
the
I mean,
spreadsheets.
it would do wonders for you to get
Okay.
your information from the district and actually read what we provide to you and prepare for these meetings.
Okay, I do not have a list of the basic priority number 1, not met for 2 or more years in local performance indicators.
Mr.
Do I have a
Bettis.
list of schools that
Mr.
have
Bettis.
not met more or local performance indicators? See, you're trying to cut me off.
That's not the topic.
Mr. Bettis, we're not going to entertain board meeting time, as I've told you previously. With you doing the preparation that you should have done prior to a board meeting.
Not
We're not
preparation.
gonna do
I'm
that right
asking,
now.
I'm asking for a list of these schools who have not met 2 or more years of local performance. Do I have
That
a
sounds
list
like
of
a
that,
great
or you do not?
question. That sounds like a great question to have brought up with Mr. Hoffman
Okay.
during the preparatory meeting that you should have had. He might have been able to explain to you why
No,
something like that isn't included.
Hoffman, you people, my fellow.
Not
board
you
members
people.
My fellow board members need this information to make a good decision.
Don't
Why
speak
haven't
for
you
other
asked
board
that
members.
question?
Don't speak for other board members,
Okay,
Mr.
so
Bettis.
why can't Mr. Hoffman give us a list of these, pair engagement, not met 2 or more years of local performance indicators?
Mr. Bettis, we're going to move
Pupil
forward.
achievement.
We're going to move
They're
forward.
not
Like to move item number 4 and 29.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Albiani, seconded by, I believe it was Mr. Vargas. All in
Okay.
favor of items 4 and 29 on consent, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Me, because incomplete data.
Okay, all in favor except Mr. Bettis. The items are approved. Thank you. We have concluded with the consent calendar. Our next item is bargaining units. Are there any bargaining units who wish to address the board? Thank you. We will move on to our public hearing and action items. First up is the adjustment to school facilities fees, also known as developer fees, which will be presented by Ms. Kristen Coates.
All right, good evening. Forget what time of day it is. Madam President, trustees, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. This is a follow-up from the June 28th board meeting, 26th board meeting. And tonight, the board is asked to open a public hearing to both adopt the school facility needs assessment and the resolution as required As a reminder, all noticing was conducted and required, that was required by law. We sent multiple notifications. The study has been communicated to the board as both a board communication as well as a discussion item at the last board meeting. And pursuant to government code, the district is required to adopt a school facilities need analysis to justify to levy the fee of alternative school impact fees on new residential construction, both level 2 and level 3 fees that are higher than the statutory level set by the state of California. The school facility needs assessment was prepared by Odell Planning and Research Incorporated in May of 2023, and the adoption of this would replace the one that was approved by the board last June 19th. So as a reminder from the last meeting, the proposed level fees of $7.16 per square foot of new residential construction represents an increase of just 12 cents from the current $7.04. And based on that rate, the impact for construction of a new 2,400 square foot home within the district would increase from $16,896 to $17,184. The most significant factor contributing is the site acquisition fees, but there is also an increase to the state construction costs allowances had some impact. So tonight, the public comment period will end. Any comments that are made this evening will be memorialized for public record. We do know that developer fees are an important part of funding school facilities. They are not taken lightly. They are something that does aid taxpayers to help offset some of that for the developers. And the approval of this tonight would allow us to be eligible for any state funds as well.
Thank you, Ms. Coates. I am going to Ms. Gerber to see if there are any Zoom public comments for this item. Excuse me. I'm going to open the public hearing, then I'm going to go to Ms. Gerber. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, Madam President, there is one public comment via Zoom on this item. We have Crystal James.
Okay, Mr. Mate, can we pull up Ms. James?
Hello.
Ms. James. Oh, go right ahead, Ms. James.
Hi, I just wanted to speak to the fact I'm Ms. Crystal James, and I live in the area of close to Anatolia, Anatolia and Sunridge. I have two kids. One is attending Sunrise next year as a kindergartner, and the other one's 3 years old, so soon to attend, hopefully. I wanted to bring up the fact that our schools are impacted. Sunrise is offloading kids to McGarvey. McGarvey was opening new classes and wouldn't even give information to some people that I know about their kindergartner being able to attend or what track they were in till maybe a couple weeks before school started. So she had to switch her kid to another school because she needed that notice. Anyway, and there's just a lot of issues with schools in the area, and I know that there's some discussions on what is needed to open new elementary schools and what is needed to open a middle and a high school. We've sent emails, we've tried to contact board members and make our positions known, but the matter is really that we just don't have the facilities that we need in this area. They don't meet the needs of our families, and they put our families under stress, busing our children or driving for 30 minutes each way. Our kids are not able to, when they get old enough to go to middle and high school and have to go to Oak Grove areas, they aren't able to participate in sports or other programs as readily. They aren't with their peers, in the neighborhood after school, walking home, riding their bike, as they should have that experience. So with the facility fees that we already pay, I think we try to figure it out, and we're paying 12% of the Melrose taxes that the district gets totally. We only have 3% of the schools in the area. And I want to make sure that any additional fees, any fees that we are currently paying, continue to go towards our students and what's best for them. I worry that my students that are coming won't have space at the schools that are here. I worry that there will not be schools for them as they transition to middle and high, and that the busing was not sufficient for the needs as well. Not to mention the fact that they just wouldn't be in the area, and that's not good for them. Are we paying now and overcompensating for past facilities errors? That's my big question. And I want you guys to please be creative with your facilities solutions. Think about ways to make it happen for our students, what they deserve and what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. There was only the one, Ms. Gerber. Wonderful, thank you. Ms. Albiani, do we have any blue cards?
There are no blue cards.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to close the public hearing and call for a motion to approve resolution number 1, approving the May 2023 school facilities needs analysis and adopting alternative school facilities fees.
So moved.
Was that Mr. Vargas or Mr. Okay, moved by Mr. Vargas, second by Ms. Albiani. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Request a roll call vote?
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Mr. Pettis's no vote is noted. The measure passes. Thank you, colleagues. Next, we will be moving on to discussion items, the first of which is the Elk Grove Unified School District Community Facilities District 2023-24 tax report and first reading of Ordinance 1, 2023-2024. Ms. Gerber, do we have any public comments via Zoom for this item?
No public comments via Zoom.
Thank you, Ms. Albiani. Do we have any blue cards?
No cards.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Coates.
All right, well, this is another annual item. In this case, this is when the board sets the tax rate for the community facility district. So the facilities team has prepared the 2023-24 district community facilities tax report, which sets the tax rate for each parcel within the district. The rates based on information on each parcel in the district and tax formulas established by the passage of Measure A on April 28th, 1987, and again on March 10th, 1998, with amendments. The tax report will be used by the County of Sacramento to prepare tax bills and collect tax revenues for the 2023-24 school tax year, rather. The Mello-Roos Act requires that the board, acting on behalf of Elk Grove Unified School District Community Facilities District number 1, adopt the tax report as a regular agenda item. The act also requires that the action taken by the board is in the form of adopting an ordinance, both of which you have attached tonight. Ordinance number 1, 2023, when adopted by the board, allows the administration to make changes to the tax report in response to appeals from taxpayers or otherwise to correct errors in the application of special tax to particular parcels. So tonight, we're asking that the board conduct a first reading of ordinance number 1, which is Exhibit A attached to the agenda. And then the board will be asked on August 8th to conduct a final reading and adoption of the ordinance. Public notices for today's meeting were placed in Elk Grove Citizen on June 30th and the Sacramento Bee on July 3rd. The financial plan adopted in January of 1987 allows for the appeal of the tax rate for a parcel. The board should receive input from the public tonight and on August 8th regarding appeals for the specific tax of a parcel of land only. The actual tax formula cannot be appealed since the formula was established by the electorate when they approved Measure A. And then all appeals will be directed to the administration for consideration, and the board should proceed with the adoption of the tax report and ordinance of number 1. In this report, we continue the current and maximum rates. In addition, senior citizens and disabled persons tax period they were noticed and closed on June 30th. And so with that, I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Coates. Any questions, comments from colleagues? Wonderful. Seeing none, I'd like to call for a motion to approve. Excuse me, no, I don't need a motion. I don't need a motion because we're bringing this back on August 8th. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to action items. First of which is amendment agreements to non-represented employees. Ms. Gerber, do we have public comments via Zoom for this item?
Madam President, no comments via Zoom.
Thank you, Ms. Albiani. Do we have any blue cards for this item?
We have no blue cards.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Singh.
Good evening, Madam President, Francis Jarvis Espinoza, members of the board, Mr. Hoffman, colleagues and staff. You're gonna have to hang out with me for a while because I'm gonna have to read this whole script for us. So
I'm glad you brought your bottle of water. Come up for air when you need to.
thank you. California Government Code Section 54953C, Part 3 requires that a verbal summary of the proposed compensation and fringe benefits be given to the public prior to the final board action on certain employment agreements. The employment agreements and amended agreements for the 22-23 and 23-24 school years for the Deputy Superintendent, Business Services and Facilities, Deputy Superintendent, Education Services and Schools, Associate Superintendent, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Assistant Superintendent for Schools Elementary, Assistant Superintendent for School Secondary, Chief Human Resources Officer, the Executive Director of School Support, Curriculum and Professional Learning, and Executive Director of School Support, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community Engagement require board action in an open session to extend the term of their employment agreements and for movement on their respective salary schedules upon the receipt of a satisfactory evaluation, unless they are on the top step of their salary schedule or on a 2-year step. Whereas all eligible represented employees in the district automatically receive step and column advances effective July 1st. Upon the receipt of a positive evaluation, salary schedule step advances and increases and contract term extensions for unrepresented contracted employees must be approved by the board in open session at a regular school board meeting. Each of the proposed amended agreements contain the following material terms. Part A, term. Based upon their receipt of a satisfactory evaluation for the 22-23 school year, the term of the proposed amended employment agreements for number 1, Deputy Superintendent, Business Services and Facilities, Deputy Superintendent, Education Services and Schools, Associate Superintendent, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Assistant Superintendent of Schools Elementary, Assistant Superintendent of Schools Secondary, Chief Human Resources Officer, Executive Director of School Support, Curriculum and Professional Learning, and Executive Director of School Support, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community Engagement shall expire on June 30th, 2026, unless terminated on an earlier date by the parties or extended by the parties. In addition, the Chief Financial Officer's start date shall be changed from May 16, 2023 to June 12th, 2023, and there are no other changes to the Chief Financial Officer's employment agreement approved by the board on May 16, 2023. Part B, compensation. Cabinet members' salary shall align with the step increments and salary schedule structure included in the applicable cabinet members' agreements. Addendum agreements and the salary schedules attached to their addendum agreements. As a result, the following constitutes each cabinet member's pay on the following effective dates. For the 22-23 school year, effective retroactive for the 22-23 school year, the following cabinet members shall receive the following base salary consistent with the applicable 22-23 salary schedule and state placement. Deputy Superintendent of Business Services and Facilities, base salary at step 7 shall be $279,450. Deputy Superintendent of Education Services and Schools, base salary at step 9 shall be $296,441. Associate Superintendent's base salary at step 9 shall be $262,486. Chief Technology Officer's base salary at step 8 shall be $198,288. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Elementary, base salary at step 8 shall be $200,875. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Secondary, base salary at step 7 shall be $196,936. Executive Director of School Supports, Curriculum and Professional Learning, base salary at step 9 shall be $183,873. Executive Director of School Supports, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community Engagement, base salary at step 5 shall be $167,456. Chief Human Resources Officers, base salary at step 9 shall be $183,873. the 23-24 school year one-time off schedule. Effective for the 22-23 school year, all cabinet members shall receive a one-time off schedule payment of 2% based on their new 23-24 salary schedule and 23-24 step placement as follows. Deputy Superintendent of Business Services and Facilities, this one-time schedule payment at step 8 shall be $5,701. Deputy Superintendent of Education Services and Schools, this one-time off schedule payment at step 9 shall be $5,929. Associate Superintendent, this one-time off salaries payment at step 9 shall be $5,250. Chief Technology Officer, this one-time off schedule payment at step 9 shall be $4,124. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Elementary, this one-time off schedule payment at step 9 shall be $4,178. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Secondary, this one-time off schedule payment at step 8 shall be $4,018. Chief Human Resources Officer, this one-time off schedule payment at step 9 shall be $3,677. Executive Director of School Support, Curriculum and Professional Learning, this one-time off schedule payment at step 9 shall be $3,677. Executive Director of School Support, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community Engagement, this one-time off schedule payment at step 6 shall be $3,466. For the 23-24 school year step movement, effective July 1, 23, the following cabinet members shall move one step and shall receive the following base salary consistent with the applicable 23-24 salary schedule and step placement. Deputy Superintendent of Business Services and Facilities shall move to step 8 and her base salary at step 8 shall be $285,039. Chief Technology Officer shall move to step 9 and his base salary at step 9 shall be $206,219. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Elementary shall move to step 9 and her base salary at step 9 shall be $208,911. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Secondary shall move to step 8 and his base salary at step 8 shall be $200,875. Executive Director of School Support, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community Engagement shall move to step 6 and her base salary at step 6 shall be $173,319. Note that the cabinet members on step 9 on their 22-23 salary schedule do not move a step on July 1, 2023 because they are on the top step of their salary schedule. Health and welfare benefits. The Deputy Superintendent, Business Services and Facilities, Deputy Superintendent, Education Services and Schools, Associate Superintendent, Chief Technology Officer, Assistant Superintendent of Schools Elementary, Assistant Superintendent of Schools Secondary, Chief Human Resources Officer, Executive Director of School Support, Curriculum and Professional Learning, and Executive Director of School Support, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community Engagement will receive the same health and welfare benefits and retiree benefits as other district certificated employees, as those fringe benefits may change from time to time, consistent with their employment agreements. This concludes the summary for the following cabinet addendum agreements. Deputy Superintendent, Business Services and Facilities, first amended agreement. Deputy Superintendent, Education Services and Schools, 6th amended agreement. Associate Superintendent, 7th amended agreement. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Elementary, 5th amended agreement. Assistant Superintendent of Schools Secondary, 1st amended agreement. Chief Human Resources Officer, 3rd amended agreement. Chief Technology Officer, 5th amended agreement. Chief Financial Officer, 1st amended agreement. Executive Director of School Supports, Curriculum and Professional Learning, 1st amended agreement. Executive Director of School Support, Communications, Educational Equity, and Family and Community and Engagement, 1st amended agreement. Copies of the amended agreements will be available upon request.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Colleagues, as you know, discussion of personnel items happens in closed session, but the vote on these contracts happens in public. So at this time, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the non-represented employment agreements and amendments to non-represented employment agreements discussed by Mr. Singh.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that you, Mr. Yang? I didn't catch. Who was the second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Albiani, second by Mr. Yang. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No fiscal reports attached to neither.
No
one of these.
commentary. No commentary. We are taking a vote. Is that an aye or a no vote, sir?
No vote.
Okay. So let the record show that Mr. Bettis is a no vote, everybody else is an aye vote, and that item is approved. The next item is very similar, Seventh Amendment Agreement for Superintendent, a non-represented employee. Ms. Gerber, do we have public comments via Zoom for this item?
No comments via Zoom.
Thank you, Ms. Albiani. Any blue cards?
There are no blue cards.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Singh.
Thank you. I promise this one will be shorter. California Government Code Section 54953, Part C, subsection 3 requires a verbal summary of the proposed compensation and fringe benefits be given to the public prior to final board action on certain employment agreements. Approval of the employment addendum amended agreement for the 22-23 and 23-24 school years for the superintendent requires board action in open session to extend the term of the employment agreement by 1 year and for changes to compensation and to the salary schedule upon the superintendent's receipt of a satisfactory evaluation. Whereas all eligible represented employees in the district automatically receive eligible step and column advances effective July 1st, upon the receipt of a positive evaluation, salary schedule step advances and increases and contract term extensions for unrepresented contract employees, including the superintendent, must be approved by the board in an open session at a regular school board meeting. The seventh amended agreement for the superintendent contains the following material terms. The term of the proposed seventh amended employment agreement for the superintendent shall expire on June 30th, 2027. Compensation. The superintendent's salary schedule shall align with the step increment and salary schedule structure included in the superintendent's salary schedules attached to the seventh amended agreement. As a result, the following constitutes the superintendent's salary on the following effective dates. 22-23 school year. Effective retroactive to July 1, 2022 for the 22-23 school year, the superintendent's base salary at step 9 shall be $441,092, consistent with the superintendent's salary schedule. For the 23-24 school year, effective for the 23-24 school year, the superintendent shall receive a one-time off-schedule payment of 2% based on the 23-24 superintendent salary schedule and step 9. This one-time off-schedule payment is $8,822. Health and welfare benefits, pardon me. The superintendent will receive the same health and welfare benefits and retiree benefits as other district certificated employees, as those benefits may change from time to time, consistent with his employment agreements and amendments. This concludes the summary of the seventh amendment to the employment agreement for the superintendent, and copies of the seventh addendum agreement will be available upon request.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I would like to call for a motion to approve the seventh amendment to the superintendent's employment agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Albiani. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Vargas. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No
I'm seeing.
fiscal impact report.
Again, we are
attached.
not discussing, we are just voting.
No.
So Mr. Bettis is opposed, everybody else is an aye. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we are moving on to board member and superintendent reports. These are our reports on our official assignments. I will take hands. Go ahead, Mr. Fortuna.
And Nancy and I had a meeting of the architects subcommittee last week, and happy to say that we're nearing the completion of that process, and it'll be coming to the board. Don't need to say that this room is antiquated, that the technology is prehistoric. That the ambiance leaves a little bit to be desired. And what's coming forward is going to be very pleasant for everyone.
Yeah, I'll add to that just to stay on topic. I think we finally selected the carpet, which was very exciting. Hardest choice in the entire project. The last meeting was actually really interesting because we had the carpenters and a lot of the folks who were actually doing the work come in here into this room. So we had a mock-up. The architects had a mock-up of like what the dais was going to be, kind of like a profile of it. So it was very important for us, as we know it would be important for you all, that we have line of sight with the folks who are here to talk to us, and that we have screens of an adequate size, that we have adequate workspace, all of that good stuff. So it was really nice to be able to pull together all the folks who are actually doing the work so that we could talk about, what is doable and what is not. I think we've mentioned the project includes some changes to the entryway, which will both improve security and just kind of modernize what we have out there. So we're really excited to bring that to you. If you are interested in seeing the carpet, I believe that Ms. Susan Bell has the samples up there in her office. So that's ready. If not, we'll bring them whenever it comes to the board. Any other subcommittee reports? Go ahead, Mr. Superintendent.
Just very quickly, I do want to highlight that tomorrow is the first day of school. So summer is officially over in Elk Grove Unified. People often say, what do you do all summer? Say, we get ready for school because it starts really fast. So I want to thank all of the staff that have done all of the work and making sure we have our people in place in our schools are ready to welcome our kids and had the opportunity to do a little kickoff with the returning staff on Friday. And it was great. So really appreciate that and look forward to the new year. I do want to thank the board for the approval of the contracts for the cabinet team. They are the best. They work incredibly hard, and having them recognized tonight is greatly appreciated. And I don't take for granted the approval of my agreement as well. And I look forward to our continued work together. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to consideration of future agenda items.
I got a suggestion or issue. Within the last couple of board meetings, we said that we were going to have a parent rights committee. We had a student rights report, then we all voted to have a parent rights committee to deal with their rights and responsibilities. So is that officially now, or who are you going to point to that meeting?
Mr. Bettis, that's actually a misstatement of what the request was. There's a board, there was not a request for a committee to be created. There was a request that was approved by the full board for a board report to come back, and it is already in the works.
For what?
On parent rights. So it will be coming back on a future agenda.
So is there any targeted date for this to happen?
I don't remember that off the top of my head. Can you speak to that, Mr. Hoffman?
Right now, we have a schedule for one of the two meetings in September because the next meeting in August. Yeah, in August will be the communications update, which is a request from the board. And then the August 22nd is our workshop day, special board meeting. And we always do our discipline report that day. And we're doing a full report on facilities update, which the community has been looking for. And also an opportunity for the board to discuss handbook and other related items, including what the student presentations look like for board meetings coming up. So one of the September meetings will have the parent rights item on the agenda.
Okay, so with that, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 7:53 p.m. Thank you all and happy first day of school to everyone who starts tomorrow, BC and D tracks.